my name's Scott, not Fred, and I'm here today to show you a pretty clever retrofit of speakers for a 2000 Miata M Edition. This system came with a premium Bose stereo as part of the package. Today we're going to replace two speakers, the 1-inch tweeter and the 8-inch woofer. To remove the door panel, I already took the pieces out, but you have two push pins here, push pin here, a screw inside the door handle, a screw under this little piece of carpeting here, a screw here into the door handle, and the rest is just push pins. Okay, I cut the tweeter wire as long as I could. One thing you're going to find out right away with the Bose stereo system when you start researching it is that the system came with an 8-inch woofer, and the replacement speakers, most of the ones you can get, are 6-inch. The tweeter is a 1-inch, which is a direct match. We're going to start by just removing the 4 retaining screws for the speaker, and then we'll remove it, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've removed the speaker and the baffle. I cut the wire because I don't need it any longer. You want to carefully remove this baffle because we're going to reuse it. So here is the speaker. Now what I'm going to do next is I am going to cut away this mesh. And you'll see that underneath is a cardboard ring, and what I'm going to do is just trim the cardboard off in between the gussets. And just remove as much of that as I can from the inside. Now when I have this off and everything and that cover off, you can actually see the speaker. Underneath, and the rubber ring, which in the case of my other speaker was definitely blown. And I'm not sure if this is some kind of subwoofer thing they have going on here, but you know, basically you can just pull this connector off because we're going to remove it anyway. And then I'll take the razor blade and I will cut around the back too and cut out this subwoofer, whatever it is. And obviously we're not going to use it anymore. I can cut this old speaker out of here. Just tear it out any way you can, because all we really want is the metal frame. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go around and I'm going to just cut these gussets out right here, so it's a clean circle all the way around. So I've cut the gussets all the way around. Now I'm just going to disconnect the wires. And I'm going to dress up these edges with the grinder a little bit, and then I'm going to cut out the rest of the speaker. Okay, so now I'm going to cut out the rest of the speaker with a razor blade around the metal frame. Okay, so I dressed up some of these edges with the grinder, and I'm going to spray paint them to keep, you know, anything from rusting. The other thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to drill out this pop rivet for the connectors, so that I don't get any rattles down the line. Okay, one important thing to remember about the Bose stereo systems for these cars is that the speakers are all 2 ohms. Most car speakers run between 4 and 6 ohms. I had to search for these online. This company, CDT Audio, makes replacement speakers for premium car Bose systems, not just the Mazda. I have a 6-inch woofer, 1-inch tweeter with a crossover. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my speaker and I'm going to mount it in my new housing. I'm going to be careful to line up these 4 holes, the ones that have a little dip here. And I'm going to line them up with my gussets. And remember, there is a speaker magnet on the back of that, so it's going to want to dance around a little bit. So then I just kind of center it on there. Oops. And I use my Sharpie to mark it. Okay, one thing I failed to mention is that there's a small cutout you need to do on the back with the grinder, because the connection for the new speakers is too close to that to get the connectors on. I've pre-drilled my holes for the speaker, and I set the speaker over there because the speaker has a magnet on it and you don't want to get metal flakes all over your speaker if you don't have to. So now what I'm going to do is another precaution. I'm going to pre-drill these screws in here before I have the speaker in, so that I don't take the chance of slipping off the screw and wrecking the speaker. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I pre-ran my screws in so I don't have to worry about messing the speaker up. And I'm just going to put a bead of silicone caulk around the outside to minimize any kind of vibration sounds. Okay, it's useful to have, when working with this speaker setup like it is, to have like 2 equal height objects that you can hold this, because the speaker itself is deeper than the back of this. Okay, so now we have our speaker housing done. I smeared the silicone so it's nice and clean. Now I'm going to move to the factory tweeter and remove that. There's 2 retaining screws. Go. Okay, so now I have the original mounting piece for the factory tweeter, and what I'm going to do is retrofit the new tweeter into this. The new tweeter looks like this, and it has several different housings that you can use. It has one like this that you can put it into a door, and then there's another one where you can mount it somewhere else. I chose this one because it's very close to the size of the factory tweeter housing. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this circle sanding drum to make the hole a little bit bigger so that it'll fit the housing face for the new tweeter. Originally on the other door I did this at home. I have an oscillating sander which worked really well, but I'm at my parents' house and I'm going to do what I need to do to get it done. So we'll be back in a second after I have this done. Okay, so I've reamed out my existing hole so that it fits the new housing front. This gets oriented like that. There's a pin through there, just like you took it off. Put this through here. Drop in our tweeter. Put the wire through the back of the housing where the wire goes. And there's a little retention spring. So you push it down, and you want to fit it into the new housing like that. So now I can just drop it right back on the factory housing and put the screws back in. Okay, so I have the old woofer wire here that I separated and taped off, and I'm just going to leave that inside the body. This is the tweeter wire, which is from previous experience, I know that it's about a 1/2 inch short for mounting the crossover. So I just put a little stub on that, and I'm just going to push it back inside the plastic to a small body hole right here, which is difficult to see, but once you get it open, you will see it. And I put a slight curve in the wire to make it so I can get it. And I'm going to pull it back inside the door. Okay, when I opened up the other door, one of the first things I noticed was that, you know, we obviously have 2 wires for the different speakers, but I couldn't find a crossover network. I noticed that both wire colors were exactly the same, which is a little unusual if you have a crossover network. I did a little internet research and I found out that the Bose system does not use a crossover network. What it does is it uses a 50 volt capacitor to limit the impedance to the high range of hertz that this tweeter requires. A word about polarity for your speakers. This is the old connector from the woofer. I can see that there's a plus sign right there, and the wire coming out of that connector is a yellow with a red stripe. Okay, this is the new crossover for the speaker system that I got. It's not ideal to put these in a water sensitive area because there's electronics in it and that kind of thing. I decided, because I don't have the money for the high-end stereo that I want right now, that if I get 2 years out of this, that's great, because by then I'll have all the money I need. So this is the crossover. You have a plus and a minus input, which we're going to do our original speaker wire front to, and then a woofer, which goes to our woofer obviously, and tweeter to the tweeter. I fed the tweeter wire in through this small hole right here so that it's back inside. And what I'm going to do is, this has a protective cover that it has on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to toss that aside, because I don't want to take a chance that anything's going to rattle in the future, and it doesn't do anything for water tightness. The other thing that you'll see inside here is that there's adjustments. +3, -3. Plus increases the speaker a little bit, and you get a little bit more high highs, which I like because I like to hear it pop. So I'm going to put that on there, and then I'm going to attach my crossover. Okay, so I've attached the crossover network. Notice I ran the tweeter wire through the door, a hole in the door right here. I have my pluses and my minuses attached correctly. I changed the setting on my my dip switch there, and because we're putting this in the car door where there is moisture, I'm gonna do what we affectionately call a crossover condom. Okay, so now I have my baggie all zipped up as much as I can. The wires are coming out one side. I wrapped the rest of it with Tyvek tape, which is used for house wrap. It is very sticky and is pretty much waterproof. So now I'm just gonna schmutz this hole with a whole bunch of silicone. Try to get it all sealed up, and then I'll put another piece of Velcro or Tyvek tape around that. Okay, I've got my crossover condom all nice and tight. The wires have been siliconed. I taped it all up with Tyvek tape. I pre-attached 3 strips of Velcro, which I'm going to use to attach it to the inside of the door, or the outside of the door panel on the inside, right above the crossbar. Okay, so now we have everything put together. I have the new speaker in there mounted in the old frame, and I just need to put the door skin on and put the fasteners back together, and then it's Corona time. Another job well done. Good day.